All right, this video is going to help you get started on today's lesson. But before we do that, we need to talk about our last chapter. If you did not get the score you were hoping to get, there is an opportunity for you to retake that score and replace the score with a full new score. So the way this process works is there in the modules page, you're going to notice that there is a remediation assignment. You'll find right down here where it says Unit 1 Test Remediation. You'll want to complete that assignment first. Once that's completed, then you're ready to ask me and set up a time to take the retake. Also, there are videos attached to each of the questions to help you work through those questions. This remediation also is a very close replica of the test, so you have at least a chance to try to work on those questions that were not as easy for you. So again, set up a time for me to meet you to take this test, and we'll get it done as soon as possible and have a much better grade if you need it. All right, now let's start talking about our next chapter. This next chapter deals with the vocabulary words that associate with angles. Here's one of the first words we have to be aware of. It's called vertex. The vertex of an angle is like the corner of where it's formed. So if I'm talking about this picture here that's got 4 dots, there are some angles in the picture that are being formed. So one angle you can mention is this red shaded area here. This angle has a corner tip to it. That corner tip we call a vertex. It's the bottom of the V that's made by the 2 sides, which we call rays. Now, if you're going to reference that angle, we can use 3 letters to reference that. The middle letter is going to always represent the vertex. And then as you trace out this angle, like ABC, that makes this size opening. Or you could say CBA. So the order you say the letters does not matter as long as B is in the middle. We're both talking about the same angle. All right, next thing. So for your vocabulary, we have a note sheet that we want you to fill in. So pause the video now and just add this definition to what supplementary angles are. It says that they equal 180 degrees. All right, now as you keep on going here, let's talk about 2 angles that add to 180. What would you add with 20 degrees to get to 180? Well, it'd be 160. And if you don't know how to get that answer, just take 180, subtract 20 on your calculator if you have to, and the answer is 160. That's the amount you have left over, so that together they make 180. If you took 180 degrees, subtracted 65, you would have 115. So 115 degrees and 65 degrees are what we call supplementary angles. They add to give you 180 degrees. Same thing with 4 degrees to get 176. Again, subtract it from 180 to get 176, and those angles together add to 180. Our next vocabulary word is complementary. Complementary angles, pause the video, add this to your note sheet, are angles that add to 90 degrees. So if we talk about 2 angles here, if I'm talking the need to add it to 90, then subtract 20 from 90, and that means 70 degrees is the angle that is complementary with 20. Together, complementary angles always add to 90 degrees. If you take 65 and subtract that from 90 degrees, you'll get 25 degrees. And also 4 degrees subtracted from 90 gives you 86. But no matter what pair of angles you're talking about, they both better add up to equal 90 degrees. Add that to your note sheet if you haven't done so already. Next, we have this congruent angles. Congruent angles use a symbol. It has this little equal sign with a little squiggle above it. That symbol is the congruent symbol, which means that whatever you're talking about with angles or sides, the measures are exactly the same. So if I look at a picture like this, there will be typically a marking in the angle that you see right here that's referencing the size of that opening being the same size opening over here. So when they go out of their way to put these marks here on the angles, those are markings to tell you that this angle is equal to this one. If it's done algebraically like this one, you'll just set them equal to each other. So in the future, when we say, hey, there are 2 congruent angles, that means the one angle will equal the other angle. That's it. So then our 4th word of the 5 that we're going to be doing today is adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are 2 angles that share a common side. So you'll see we have angle 1 here, this angle opening here, and this angle here. They both share this one side in between them. That's what makes them adjacent. Just like your adjacent neighbor is right next to you, this angle is adjacent by sharing the same exact side. So it says angles that share a vertex and touch. In other words, share a common side. Add this to your note sheet so you have your 4th definition written down. All right. As you go to the actual questions that we would talk about in the future that deal with adjacent and complementary angles, this little box here in the corner is an identifier for 90 degrees. So in future pictures that you see, when you see this little box put in the corner of 2 rays or sides of an angle, these together make 90 degrees. So if I know that the DBC, well, where do I put that? Well, DBC, if I trace it out with my pencil here, it's DBC. It's the part that's inside that spacing, so that's going to be this space right here. That's 76 degrees. Then if I say that they equal 90 degrees or are complementary, take 90, subtract 76 from it, and you get 14 degrees for that missing green space there, or angle. Next, you might use expressions also. So if I have these two expressions with that box right there of these two adjacent angles, I can say that this angle plus this angle equal 90 degrees. And we can solve that algebraically and get a final answer of x equals 29. Sometimes your homework today will ask you to find the actual angle measures. So make sure you put them in the right blanks when you're finding the total answers. So if x is 29 and it says DBC, trace that out with your mouse or pencil. DBC puts you on this little x plus 7 angle. So if I just take 29, add 7 to it, you'll have your DBC angle, in this case being 36. Now with your knowledge of two angles that equal 90 degrees, you can either do the algebra by plugging 29 in for x here of the other angle, or just know that these two angles equal 180, or equal 90 degrees. So subtract 36 from 90 degrees, and you can find the answer to this angle also, or plug the 29 in for x and solve that algebraically as well, and either way, you will get 54 degrees. All right, that's complementary angles, two adjacent angles that are going to add to 90. Now, you might also have to add this to your note sheet. This is an actual spot on your blue note sheet also. So add this, pause the video right now and add this question to your blue sheet. With the work shown, it would be best at least at minimum show the starting equation that you use to solve to get x equals 5.43. But make sure especially that you type in and write down that these two angles that are side by side with the box are complementary angles. Pause the video now if you need to. All right, moving on. These markings that you see right here, they've got these little hash marks here. These hash marks also mean congruent. So you not only have the markings going as the arc markings are there, but they also have this extra marking here to show that they are the same measure. If that's the case, they're both the same measure, you can set these things equal to each other, and when you have congruent angles, they are equal, and you can solve using your general solving skills. Next, if I have a question like this, it says, now what is the measure of KGF? Well, then I got to take that 7 I just solved for and plug it back in like I did in the previous question. So 7 times 4 is 28. Take away 5 gives you 23. Now I don't need to put this into x of this one here because if they're congruent, if this one's 23, I don't even have to solve this one right here. I know it's going to be 23 for the answer also. They're both going to be 23. Next. All right, next we have this angle here that's 152 degrees. And when it's 152 degrees and they're side by side, these two are going to be supplementary angles. They add to 180 degrees. Anytime two angles adjacent that equal a straight line are going to be supplementary. So just subtract 152 from 180 and you'll have the angle for that measure, 28 degrees. So when you have two angles adjacent, they make what's called a linear pair. Together they make a straight angle, the line that you see there, but a linear pair are two angles that form a line. And together that linear pair is going to be supplementary. They equal 180. Add this to your notes and pause the video if you need to. All right, next, we're going to talk about this last concept. You have two lines that cross, and I'm going to tell you that this angle x is 23 degrees. If I ask you to find DEB, you're going to simply just subtract that from 180, and you'll have the DEB answer of 157. Now, if I ask you to move on and try to find the CEB angle next, we know that these two side-by-side ones also equal 180. So if I take 180 degrees and subtract 157, this angle is going to look really familiar. It's also 23. And then if I keep on going, I want to find the last angle of where these two lines cross is. Well, I know this angle and this angle make a linear pair, and they're going to also equal 180 and be supplementary, and that's 157. Now, what I need you to think to yourself is, what do you notice that's special about these two when two lines cross? This happens every time. Pause the video and tell somebody next to you about what is special about when two lines cross. Well, I hope you notice that these two angles are going to be equal to 180, those are 180, and these are 180, but more importantly, the opposite angles are going to always match. They have a special name. These are called vertical angles, and you'll notice that the word vertical is spelled with the letter V. When there are opposite V's in the intersection of two lines, those angles are going to always be congruent or equal. So if you saw this picture here, add this to your notes. When you see vertical angles, this 9x plus 2 is going to equal 5x plus 12. Put those together and you now have your vertical congruent angles. So you set them equal to each other and solve, and that's how those work there as well. So add this to your note sheet if you have not done so also. And if I were to do a side question like this, you would just take the expressions that you see there, set them equal to each other, and then solve for x, in this case being 50. So what I need you to do now is move on to the homework, try the assignment for Unit 2, Number 1 Basic Angles Intro, and see how the day goes. I hope this lesson helps, and good luck with getting through this first assignment in Chapter 2.